Hey guys, in this video we're going to break the spell. Uh, Everything that you say is a program. Boom. There we go. It literally, everything that you say is a program. So, what are you saying? What are you saying to yourself? So, let's do this one. It's pretty crazy. It's, well, let's say like beliefs about money. Now, how do you form beliefs? Let's just inspect what's happening in the operating system. As you are speaking your words, as you are speaking your language, if you slow down the words and start to become aware of thinking about things and speaking about things, you will see that your mind creates sequences of images. They're really fast and you don't stop to notice them, especially when you have your eyes open and you're like looking what's around you. So let's say, meet me later at that Thai restaurant for lunch. Uh, I would love to have one of those rice dishes with bamboo stuff. So while you're subtitling and speaking the words, your mind is flickering the images here on your mind screen on a subtle level. The images are being flickered. And this is how we think and this is how we talk. So we have subconscious memory, which is a large and vast database. Now, we speak automatically because look at me. I'm just bouncing words around and they're just coming out. And this is how we walk and this is how we breathe and this is how the operating system is constructed. We're very complex. We can do complex things, and all of this is an automation. So, program. Now, how you choose to channel the program is you are consciousness. You are able to flip your words around. You're able to take the conversation into many possible directions. So, let's talk about trains. Trains go choo 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 choo. And now I'm not talking about beliefs. I'm not talking about subconscious. I'm not talking about monies. I'm not talking about spells and programs. I'm talking about trains going choo 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 or mangoes. So as the impulse of your will goes into your subtle bodies, which are your emotional and mental bodies, which I call the operating system, you are telling this operating system where you want it to go. Okay? And for this, you use one thing that is called will. Now, what is will? Well, have you realized the truth of your own being, that you are consciousness here? You're driving yourself inside of a body avatar and you're using the operating system made of thought forms and subconscious database, subconscious automations. So you being just pure consciousness, and you're always there, you're alive, and even when you get yourself a body and when you start living and you form an identity and you're playing different role plays in the game of life, you're always consciousness and you always will be consciousness because there exists no space-time or dimension, but consciousness is there. And then through the construct of space-time and dimension, the video game is here, the game of life. Ta-da-da, welcome. That was like fireworks. That was me doing impression of fireworks. So congratulations. Now you were just born. If you haven't been born previously, like you were born, your body was born. But when you realize yourself to be there, just existing as consciousness, this is called in like spiritual discourse born twice. Or maybe even ego death, like, okay, you realize you're not the thoughts, you're not the body, and then you have the self-realization, oh my god, I'm like this consciousness, like doing this stuff, It's crazy, huh? Then you also realize that you're also you and me as consciousness. You're also you and me and every other individual. Now you can have multiple rebirths, which kind of, it's like the rebirth or ego death is really just a nomenclature for shifting your identity or shifting the perspective of your consciousness. However, you're all the time shifting your identity. When you're thinking, when you're speaking, you're all the time shifting because your identity is not something fixed. It's a fluid thing. You have a bunch of memory in your subconscious mind. You have a bunch of images stored that you collected through your eyes, and words that you stored, and sounds and situations. And identity is a fluid thing. Identity or self-concept or even personality is something fluid, something that only exists when consciousness starts to assume a role of you are someone in relationship to something. So identity arises inside of consciousness when you're relating to things. If you're just like expand your awareness and there's no ideas coming into your mind, okay, like I'm seeing that object and that's a tree and I love trees, and I'm seeing that other object and that's a automobile and I like automobile, I don't like this one, I like that one. So when you're not doing this processing, okay, with your brain, in your first person immersion, then you're just consciousness and the body is there and the cars are there, trees are there, but you're just consciousness. And then you can notice that this consciousness is not just in your body, that it's actually vast. It just goes infinitely to the left, infinitely to the right, infinitely above, infinitely below you, and it's everywhere, and it contains the whole freaking entire world and the universe and all the stars in the sky. That's how actually infinite you are. So all of these stars and planets and people and cities, however intricate in detail and how crazy it is that there's like so many cities and people and pencils and cars, and all of that actually fits inside of you as consciousness. So somehow you're also very creative and you're generating all of these things and people, and then you're witnessing the generated world from within all of these talking heads on YouTube and all of the people walking around and all of the people driving in cars. And it's kind of very expensive perspective. However, mostly you're interested in your first person perspective because it's too much people to account for. So you want to actually uh, be the director and the producer and the first person actor or main character of your own life story. So that's cool. Individuality, we call it. Now, what is will? Well, as consciousness, that is just there. And even if there's no shapes, forms, cities, people, cars, consciousness is pretty much what's called nirvana, or it's just like super empty and chilled and self-fulfilled. So it doesn't do much. However, it can focus. So the only thing conscious can do, it can like focus or expand, rest or zoom in. So you're either zoom out or zoom in. That's the only thing that you can do. On a very baseline of reality where your consciousness that creates all of these things, you only have one property: zoom in or zoom out. But what is there to zoom into, because there's nothing there? Well, when you zoom into, you create what is called a reverberation. Okay, so as just a polarity or yin and yang. It's like where you zoom in like in the empty consciousness, the emptiness, the void. If you zoom in into something, you start to like split that empty space into space and energy. So like energy is created from you focusing on something. On a very baseline, this physics, or maybe like a little bit spiritual physics, but that's how it works. So you zoom in and you start to create this duality of space and energy, and basically you're splitting yourself up in two. So something becomes a form and something becomes the empty space that gives spaciousness for that form to arise, and these are called yin and yang or masculine and feminine but they're basically just consciousness zooming in, and then it starts to reverberate forms, grooves, vibrations. And Nikola Tesla, he said everything's made of vibration, and he was a genius who invented free electricity. And 1 century later, we still haven't figured it out because we're just monkeys here. But he was a genius, so when he said everything's made of vibration, we better believe it. So the vibration is actually consciousness zooming and then polarizing itself, becoming like space and vibration or energy inside of that space. However, still, it's all you. Now, the will you're experiencing in the same way when you're empty consciousness and when you're consciousness in your first person immersion in your body, in your mind. Because wherever you give attention, wherever you give awareness, that thing starts to open up. And then automation of your mind that is already reverberated here into its complex architecture, the mind starts to feed those images and connect those words together. And now you're speaking. So the automation, the previous images that you recorded or beliefs or words, they're the program. Now, can you switch the program? Yeah, for sure, because you can go off script. Now, if you haven't broken the spell, if you identify with your story of your ego, of your first person character, and the feedback loop that is created through your many experiences of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, then you might be stuck in a rigid identity where you have no fluidity with your personality or self-concept. And to suggest something different than what you used to believe and see and witness and record into your subconscious that will break the feedback loop, this type of creativity where you would say something new and even dare to believe something new might feel a little bit off to the ego. Like, so let's say money. So let's say what I'm witnessing and what I'm perpetually witnessing is like, I don't have money, or I'm broke, or I have this amount of money. And for now, let's say 5 years, I have this amount of money. Okay. Or for 30 years or for all of my life, I had this amount of money or lack of money, or whatever. Or maybe there was like amounts of money coming in, but then they go away, and then now we have, now we don't have. So whatever. So you may reference your words based on the previous recording, what you remember previously. And in this complex reality is a good way to be able to reference physical objects, appearance of things, circumstances, because in this way you can navigate the physical world. And then by going into your memory and just repeating what's already stored there, it's describing the previous experience. Nothing wrong with that. However, if you're recognizing yourself based on the things and the circumstance and the previous experience, then you are just a feedback loop, a program that's running in a loop. Now, you probably in the days of like YouTube and TikTok, you probably seen the guys that go in the street and they have the looper, and then they go like boom, 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 and then record that loop, and then go boom, 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 and then another one, boop, boop, and they go boom, 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 boop, 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 boom, boop, boom, boop, boom, boop, and now they can mix it up. So the idea here is that you also have the microphone, and you can install new loops that were not recorded there, and you can make them up with the looper and with your subconscious mind. So, like, only being able to believe something is true because you can do burr, burr, burr. So that's true because I recorded there. And beep, beep, beep. That's true because I recorded. So that goes on a loop. And now I'm referencing that as my identity, and my identity is rigid. It only goes burr, 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 beep, beep, beep. Okay? And if I'm then going to say, you know what? Like, I'm effortless millionaire, and I can do two things from that. I can be like, press the button and say, effortless millionaire, and then brr, 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 effortless millionaire, brr, 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 effortless millionaire, brr, 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 effortless millionaire. Now that's in the loop. It's in the mix. You recorded that. Now, the thing with the spells or the words is that the whole reality is a matrix of meaning or like a mental construct. So I said before, you just consciousness zoom in, you start to reverberate energy. Well, this energy is then organized into a computer basically that runs reality that you created, and now you're experiencing the game from the first person. But the computer works like the computer works. It has folders, it has organization. You can copy paste data. Uh, you can recreate data. You can delete data. You can store new data. And the physical reality is like a museum of things that were created first as an ideas and then crystallized into molecular form, either through cutting wood and then carving that wood into a chair or whatever, or this is yogis, the people who go into the mental sphere of reality, higher level of organization, that today is called manifestation and it's everywhere. But like you can crystallize things from the void, because if you can go in meditation, you become pure conscious and you zoom into something that can molecularize. Okay, it all like the engine, the computer of how that works is already here. So if you guys want to like do that stuff, it's kind of fun and interesting, and you go a little bit away from the world of a million things where you're always busy with being pinged by external triggers, and you're processing like the world, and you're watching TV and you're scrolling TikTok, and you go in a jungle, you go into a monastery and you practice that, and you can like crystallize things from nothing because you're a consciousness who created this whole entire universe by doing the same thing. So why couldn't you do that right now when you are in your first person immersion? Because you're scrolling on your phone all the time and you're busy. You like to eat ice cream, you're busy. You like to go and chat with your friends, have a few beers, you're busy. However, it is in your nature that you can molecularize things from the empty screen of consciousness. So, facts. Boom. So now you can go and eat ice cream again or whatever. But the easier way that you could just create reality for yourself while you're eating ice cream, having beers with your friends, doing whatever you want to do, is also just be a little bit mindful of the language that you project, because everything is code, everything is matrix, everything is language. So everything is a spell, because you're literally coding reality with the words you speak. And I don't know to which level you might be aware of that, because on some level, everybody's like, words are magic. But it's literally that everything that you're going to say is going to be a picture in your mind, word comes out of your mouth, and then this creates the program. And you're speaking from the program that's already created. You might jam it up and insert new words, and you will see. And sometimes this can be, depending on where you're situated, you can shift reality instantly, or you can shift it in 7 years. Okay, so there's like different vibrational foundations here in the computer or in the reality experience, physical reality experience, where depending on your frequency, where the consciousness goes, to which frequency bandwidth your perspective of consciousness goes, you can shift things, reality, appearance, molecular form, physical reality, storyline, and you can see instantaneous shift, and you would call that a timeline jump or a quantum shift, because it disrupts the linear flow of reality and it disrupts the storytelling of your previous loop. So that would be like going I'm an effortless millionaire, but then you like scrap the loops and you're just like, let's make something new. Boom, boom, boom. Ow, ow, ow. Let's have an ice cream. Boom, boom, boom. Ow, ow, ow. Let's have an ice cream. Now, uh, you're actually the only author, and you're actually the only power that you ever need to consider when you're looking for a permission to believe something. Yeah, the reality itself is like arrangement of memories, uh, like neatly loomed or woven memories that then create molecular forms, but they're just data. And you're experiencing that data, but you're also the director producer. You're the one that arranges the data. Okay, and if you if you don't practice meditation, you can like go into experience yourself in the state of like void or nirvana. You're doing that while you're sleeping, while you're resting from the world in the night. You go there every night, and yeah, maybe you don't remember like nirvana. You don't remember because there was nothing going on. Like it wasn't so interesting. They have no TikTok when it's only pure consciousness. There's no TikTok. There's no YouTube. There's no gelato. There's no ice cream. There's no panda. So you might be just like, I was sleeping, and you know that was like not. I don't remember anything. But when you're sleeping, you're there. And even now, when you're awake and you're alive and you're talking or you're watching YouTube, you're there right now, but you're just expanding your awareness in this intricate looming of reality, connecting to your nervous system, connecting to your DNA sequencing, your mental processing, your transmission, and blah, 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 blah. You know, the game goes on. So you stop and notice the images in your mind or the words that want to come out of your mouth, and you switch. And the permission to switch into something that didn't exist before in the looper, in the subconscious automation, you need you don't need to ask anybody if it's like true or not, possible or impossible. Does law of physics or time and space apply? Really, it's whatever you want. So sometimes the mind can be also a little bit twisted because it can tell from referencing the physical reality, having a solid grounded experience, and then also creating some idea that seems like a fantasy. There could be like a little bit of mental distortion when we talk about like everything is possible and like whatever I think is made true or manifested, because if you're not accessing the vertical frequency, then you might be just creating fantasy or distortion. Okay, because your mind, this is where something like manifestation does not like work for people, because they're not also coming from like the vertical connection where what you're saying is heart inspired and it's connecting into computer. Okay, if you're not connected to like what you call like God or computer or whatever, like, and you're not connected to your heart, and then you're like, I'm trying to manifest, but it doesn't work. Well, it's you're just not using your entirety, okay, in this symbiotic way where it actually works. So something's off, and I'll create another video where I can help you if you want to know what's the difference between just wishful thinking and actually creative imagination. But in this one, I've said it probably just about enough. So if you're vibing with this information, subscribe to my channel, drop a like, tap me on the shoulder when you see me, give me a fist bump. Check out the school community that we have where we're jamming on all of these things and more. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.